Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1144B, and today's date is December 5th, 2016, and the title of the episode is, Are the Elite Planning Something Big in the Middle East? Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, we can see the recount process is still happening. Trump is filing lawsuits, Stein is filing lawsuits, and the recount is really showing absolutely nothing at this point. But we knew this is not what it's all about. It's not about, who's going to win with the recount. It's about stalling. It's about keeping the electoral votes out of the picture. Hopefully, they can keep this going and stalling past December 19th. That is their plan. And we can see right now they're doing whatever they possibly can to keep this up because they're trying to manipulate the Electoral College. That's what they're going after. And time is of the essence. We have 14 days until we hit that spot. So we will see them ramp up whatever they're doing to try to derail what is going to happen on December 19th. Now, out in Afghanistan, we see the UN and the U.S. commanders, they're basically not agreeing on anything. And we can see right now the U.S. is saying, listen, we're going to have to kick the UN out of the Kabul base. Why is that? Because the U.S. and the UN, they're differing on the war reports on what's really going on there. And we see that they're saying that the U.S., where they're flying drones, they are killing a lot of civilians in the Nangarhar province, and the U.S. is saying, no, we're not killing civilians, we're killing only the Islamic State. And the reports, they're not matching up right now. And we know from the past that, yes, the U.S., many of the targets are children, many of the targets are women, families. And this has been proven in the past, and the U.S. has said, yes, we've looked at the situation, and it is true. And it looks like at this point, it's getting worse and worse as time goes on, because who are they actually hitting right now? Because the Islamic State, that's a group that is created by the United States, created by the CIA, the coalition forces, to be used to create fear, to be used so the U.S. can have regime change in many of the countries. We see the British Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson. He's dismissing any type of criticism about the British arms sales to Saudi Arabia, saying that, you know what, I don't see a war crime here. Doesn't matter how many civilians are killed in Saudi Arabia. It makes no difference. We haven't crossed the threshold. Well, when we look at the situation in Yemen, Yemen never invaded Saudi Arabia. Why did Saudi Arabia have to go into Yemen? I mean, that was an act of war. They decided to have war with Yemen. The people, they were having an internal coup saying, we don't want this puppet government in Yemen anymore. And of course, the United States, the UK, they use Saudi Arabia as their proxy army to do their bidding. And this is why the British Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson is out there trying to keep everything on track. But we can see right now the Houthis have the control, and the control is not Saudi Arabia. The control is not the puppet government, and things are falling apart in that area. And we're seeing it fall apart rapidly all over the place. Even in Iraq, the United Nations right now, they have agreed to stop recording casualty figures in the war in Iraq, because Iraq is complaining that the UN numbers are completely off, that the number of security forces that they're reporting that have died, they really haven't died. And right now, the Iraqi army officials, they haven't really offered any type of count of how many of their fighters have actually died in the fight. So we're having problems all over the place where none of these numbers are matching up. We see the Libyan army seize control of the country. They declared a state of emergency. And it looks like there's a power struggle right now. It looks like the people are saying they want their country back. The unity government looks like they have no power whatsoever. And it looks like the United States is running into problems in Yemen, in Libya, in Iraq, in Lebanon, and in Syria. The whole entire campaign to keep the petrodollar alive is completely falling apart. Now, while all this is happening, we see the Syrian army, the Russian forces, they have about 52% of East Aleppo now under control of the Syrian army. And of course, now John Kerry is out there. Well, now he wants to have talks with Lavrov. And he's made a proposal to say, okay, listen, we're going to withdraw the rebel forces and we're going to take them out of Aleppo. Now, U.S. Secretary of State latest offer for all jihadis to leave Aleppo appears to be an attempt to get the Russians to agree to a ceasefire in order to preserve the al-Qaeda-controlled pocket in eastern Aleppo, maybe until Obama leaves office. Because remember, Obama is very worried about his legacy. He wants to leave office with an economy that has recovered. His campaigns in the Middle East are a complete success. And whatever happens after he leaves office, well, they'll just blame that on the next administration. But what happened was Lavrov called Kerry's bluff by demanding that the U.S. come up with concrete proposals and a definite timetable for the withdrawal of the terrorists. Not in 4 weeks, not in a year, within the next couple of days. So that plan is falling apart. Now, the EU is saying, well, we have another plan here. And Assad, they call it retirement. He doesn't have to retire. Well, that's not what they were after. They're saying he can stay as long as they allow and give power to the rebel forces. The EU is planning to offer Damascus financial aid, which means debt, in exchange for allowing the rebel forces to stay in power in some of the regions of Syria. So they're using debt as a blackmail type of leverage to kind of get their way. And this is coming from Foreign Policy Chief Federica Mogherini, saying that we will do this and we will help out rebuild Syria if you accept this deal. Because they realize at this point, there's no way out of this. They are done in Syria. Now, of course, the corporate media is out there pushing a lot of fake news. The Washington Post, they're warning. Actually, what they're doing is they're covering their tracks right now. And they're out there warning that, the armed groups in Syria, previously vetted by the U.S. to receive weapons through the CIA channels, well, they might join the terrorist groups, and this might happen if Trump abandons them. Well, they're already part of the terrorist groups. They're doing whatever they possibly can, using fake information to convince everyone that when Trump comes into office, all of a sudden, these rebels are going to turn into terrorists. They're already terrorists, but they're trying to cover their tracks right now. Now, we understand that this is a no-win situation for the U.S. in the Middle East. And this all revolves around the petrodollar. The petrodollar right now is doomed. Remember, the U.S. needs to maintain control in this entire area. If the petrodollar does not exist, and we can see already Turkey is turning away from the dollar, many of these other countries, well, it's going to be like a domino effect. Just like the people in Italy, the people in the UK, the people in France who are saying we don't want the EU, we don't want the central bankers. The same thing's going to happen within all these countries. They're going to say, we don't want to use the dollar to sell the oil. And we've been talking about this for quite a while, and here we are at this point. And these countries are going to stop using the dollar. And it looks like we're moving towards that period of time, which is coming up very, very quickly. And when this happens, guess what? Other countries will not keep the dollar in their reserves. Those dollars, and we've been exporting inflation to all these countries for a very long time, It's all coming back. We're going to have a flood of currency back here in the U.S. Now, are the central bankers, the elite, just going to let this happen? Maybe. But I don't think they're going to go down without a fight. I think they're going to want a huge distraction. I don't think Trump is enough of a distraction, because he just got into office, and if they actually bring down the economy like we expect a couple months into his administration, will people actually believe this? Because, okay, he's been there for 4 months. Yeah, we can blame them, but I think they need something else. Because people are going to say, well, wait a minute, he's been there for 4 months. You're telling me in 4 months, this strong economy, he was able to crash by doing, how much did he really get done in 4 months? Most likely not that much. So they're going to need something else. Now we see 2 ships, 2 amphibious ships. They've entered the Mediterranean. We mentioned this on Sunday. They have about 4,000 Marines, the Wasp and the Whidbey. And are they using this to evacuate what's ever out there? Are they using this to have an invasion, maybe an invading ground force into the area? Because this is very suspect at this point. And we can see that this is a little unusual right now, because we can see at this point that there's no reason for these 2 ships to be in the area unless they're going to use them for some particular reason. We know we have forces in Syria. They've created 2 bases. We know we have a lot of forces in Iraq. Are they planning a ground invasion? Maybe. We're going to have to watch out and see, but we're looking at all these indicators, and we can see right now something is definitely planned. What it is, we don't know what it is yet, but we can see that something is moving in that direction. And like I said, the United States government, the central bankers, the elite, they're backed into a corner. Their system is about to unravel. The entire economic system is about to crash. If they don't do something, create some type of an event, some type of distraction, it will be blamed on them. And like we said, we know there's a tactical nuke that was smuggled into Syria. We know that radioactive material is missing from Iran. We know there are other things that are in play that, of course, we don't even know of. So we can see that things are being prepared and readied. And this is what we have been following and looking at. Now, Russia has been reporting that there's going to be some type of cyber attack starting December 5th. And Russian bank VTB said, yes, on Monday their websites have been hit by a cyber attack. And what they're saying, it is a DDoS attack on the country's financial system. They're saying so far it hasn't caused any damage or anything like that. And their IT infrastructure is working normally at this point. They really didn't bring anything down. So we'll have to continually follow this and see what happens. Because as we know, the central bankers in the EU and the United States, around the globe, the private Western central bankers I'm talking about, their system is coming apart right now. They see it. They see the writing on the wall. And we know what they've been planning for quite a while. And this was war. Has this plan just been pushed aside? No. Because now they're becoming desperate. Now they need a huge distraction. Now they need this more than ever. Because this will stop everything. It will stop all these referendums. It will stop what is happening in the Middle East. It will cover up this entire system when it collapses. So we can see at this point in time that the odds for war starting now is greater than ever. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.